Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're having a very important discussion. This is, of course, about the Malegaon terror case, alleged terror case now. I don't even know if it should be called that anymore because it has been so decisively debunked in the court of the law, in the law, by the law, and also in terms of just even the way it has been exploited over so many years, nearly 2 decades. I was just talking to RNG before we started that life was so different and perceptions were so different, and the kind of perception that people developed during that time, who were not actively involved in politics or in any or journalism or any of those things, really had no idea what to make of this. So essentially, for 17 years, if you go by what the courts have decided, and there's no reason to doubt that because it took its time getting to this conclusion, uh, we've not only been lied to, but it's the most vile kind of propaganda. So, Arunji, what was this case about? Can you give a background? We have a lot of young viewers, a lot of Gen Zs watch us. So, can you give us a little bit of a background on what this case was about?
Thank you for inviting me to the show, Advaita. Always a pleasure to be on your show. And for the those who are not much aware about it, or just to declutter the things, I'll just basically come out with a short chronology of the events, and the rest, they can follow on probably Google. So I'll not do an overload of information because these days such things, whenever such big incidents happen, so there is an overload of information in which most of the facts basically go missing. So in on September 29th, 2008, on the night of September 29, 2008. So, a low intensity bomb, which was fitted to a motorcycle, went off near Bhiku Chowk in Malegaon, which is in Maharashtra, and it triggered panic and chaos. Basically, it is a communally sensitive town, and it happened during the month of Ramzan and on the eve of beginning of the Navratras. So that is the timing was basically very important. And so then in October 2008, the Maharashtra Anti-Terrorism Squad, ATS, began its investigation, and the probe led to the arrest of certain individuals, which were linked to the some of them were linked to the Hindu group. So we had Sadhvi Pragya, then there was an army officer, Lieutenant Colonel Purohit,
Rohit,
and
yes.
yeah, so they there were overall basically 7 people were accused of being basically facilitators or key perpetrators of this incident, and it was termed as a most importantly a Hindu terrorist attack or a Saffron terror attack. This was the term which was coined for the first time in the history of India. This term entered the political lexicon, and we'll talk about that, a little bit about that later. One more important thing which one has to remember is that this blast happened in 2008, and the ATS started begin investigation in 2008, and the first charge sheet of around 4,000 pages was filed by January 2009, which was quite efficient of the ATS, and which raises its own doubts because from April to May 2009 we were going for a general elections. So all these incidents happened, on the eve of the general election, and then in April 2011, the case was transferred to the National Investigation Agency, which is central government agency, and earlier 2011 it was being investigated by can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. I'm listening to you.
So the case was transferred to National Investigation Agency, which is a specialized agency to probe, especially the terror attacks. And in 2016, then NIA filed multiple charge sheets, and supplementary charge sheet was also filed. It The charges which were earlier filed under UAPA Act, basically the draconian Makoka, what we call, It's MCOCA, basically a Maharashtra-based, law, and apart from that, UAPA, which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, and apart from that, there were certain other sections, but these were the two key sections, these were the two key laws, which were kind of under which these cases were filed. NIA then, in the subsequent probe, acquitted several individuals which were previously named by the ATS, the Maharashtra Anti-Terror Squad. So, and they acquitted them basically because they said there is no, prosecutable evidence. And then NIA also found very serious loopholes in the ATS probe, and it appeared, that people were being framed. And in 2018, then charges were formally framed against seven accused, giving way to the trial. The seven individuals included Sadhvi Pragya Singh, Thakur, which later became a BJP MP from Bhopal also. In fact, it was she was a BJP MP from Bhopal at that time. Then Lieutenant Colonel Prasad Shrikant Purohit, then serving officer of military intelligence, Major retired Ramesh Upadhyay, Ajay Rahekar, Sudhakar Chaturvedi, Sameer Kulkarni. So from 2018 to 2023, this trial went on. The court examined around 323 prosecution witnesses, out of which 37 turned hostile. Around 37 turned hostile. And finally, in April 2025, after over 16 years of the final arguments from the prosecution, the matter concluded in April 2025, after which the NIA Special Court, the judge wrote the judgment, and on the 1st of July, all the seven accused were acquitted. But most importantly, the judge also said that one, there was absolutely lack of prosecutable evidence. He also ordered probe against one of the ATS officers, and so there were clearly, that's the judicial part. It clearly appears that people were framed, people
But
were put in jail.
yeah, but Arunji, this is very, very frightening because this can be done to anybody, right? Tomorrow, anyone, you, me, someone else sitting in an office somewhere right now, they can just be implicated like this. And these are very serious charges. These are charges that carried very grave sentences.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. No, there is always a chance of misuse of laws. Now, laws are never actually basically bad. It depends. No, it's that who is using those laws. So, if laws can be subverted for the political purpose, and unfortunately, we also see there seems to be, I would say, uh, as far as judiciary is concerned, when it comes to terrorists, so there seems to be, the midnight hearings also, which happen. And whenever it comes to common people, so they don't have access to justice, they don't have access to, yes, the system can subvert them, and the system can, destroy them. The system can
It
destroy them.
destroys them. In
Yeah.
2019, I think it was, I met Colonel Purohit in Pune. That's where he lives. And I had a long conversation with him. And this was a very, a brave man, army officer, had the bearing of an army officer, of course, uh, but was completely like caught up in this case his whole life since this incident happened. So it had already been 10, 11 years. And then the court case then started. He'd got out of jail, but the case was still pending. So there was a lot of uncertainty around his life. And I remember leaving that encounter thinking that a good 16, 17 years now, finally you've led your life under the cloud of such a grave charge. It's a cruelty of another sort that most of us cannot even try and fathom.
I absolutely agree with you on this thing. See, had this government not come into power in 2014, I don't think the if fair and free probe would have happened. The probe which happened and which put these people in dock basically was a very biased probe, and it was specifically done as I told you. It was specifically, all these things happened on the eve of, or just a few months away from the Lok Sabha polls. And for the first time, this saffron terror term was coined, because if you look at the situation, in 2000, when this 2009 elections were going to happen, so everybody knew that that Manmohan Singh government, or the UAPA government, basically led by Manmohan Singh and Sonia Gandhi, so they were really downhill. And
Mm.
I would say, it was a desperate effort to divert the attention from the government and to create chinks in armor and of the Hindu unity. And they
Mm.
not only, unfortunately, they not only uh, tarnished the image of Hindus within the country. They tried to do that, but they also tried to do it internationally.
Yeah. Do you
Because
remember the WikiLeaks also? Rahul Gandhi's comments in the WikiLeaks.
yes, so he met, the U.S. Governor Timothy Romer, or U.S. Ambassador Timothy Romer in this thing, and it was a diplomatic cable given by sent by the U.S. Embassy on August 3, 2009. And Rahul Gandhi tells the U.S. Ambassador Tim Romer that radical Hindu groups may pose a bigger threat than Lashkar-e-Taiba. And it was this discussion happened at a PM hosted lunch on July 20th, 2009. So it shows,
Mm.
that how Congress sought to frame actually the internal opposition, which was
Mm.
coming from the pro-Hindu outfits, or those outfits, political outfits who stand by Hindus. So they tried to frame the internal political opposition as basically a national security threat. So that was the whole idea of creating this bogey of saffron terrorism or Hindu terrorism. Because yeah, please.
Yeah, initially there were different arrests. Different people were arrested for this, right? From a specific community, from what my
Yeah, yeah,
research
from
has shown.
Hindus. Why should we say, specific community? The Hindus were arrested, they were targeted, they were specifically targeted. And you see, there is a specific design to that. And they realized, see, what you witnessed in 2014 when Narendra Modi came to power, and after that, the spread of the BJP. So, what you have witnessed, it is outcome of a strong undercurrent of Hindutva, and such strong undercurrents are not built overnight. Congress could see that this undercurrent is being built. So in 1948 also they had realized that RSS had become the darling of the masses, and its popularity was growing rapidly because the role it played in saving Hindus and Sikhs during the partition, while Congress was on a standby. So the first opportunity they got, they banned RSS in 1948, and then RSS. So there is a pattern to it. You look at basically 1975 emergency. So what happened? No, Indira Gandhi, when she realized that basically she has to step down and she is going to lose the power, you are banning all the political. You imposed emergency, and you not only put all the opposition leaders in jail, but you again ban RSS, which is a cultural organization, which is not a political organization. Okay. Then in 1992, you again see that pattern. The Babri Masjid fell down, and again RSS was banned. So anybody who is standing by, and the way anybody who's standing by Hindus, anybody who's standing by Hindu philosophy of Hindu for Hinduness, or is talking about Hindus, so they were specifically targeted. And then in 2008 also, basically they did it in a very planned manner, because for the first time they coined this term. Just imagine, Hindus are a majority in this country, and you're talking about saffron terrorism and Hindu terrorism. And I want to bring in the how this whole thing was structured, how this whole thing was planned. So in 2010, so I'll give you a chronology of the event. So the first major shift in the narrative in 2000 happens when this, as you rightly mentioned, people from the Hindu community were arrested. Then, as the ATS files the 4,000 page charge sheet, the concept of Hindu terrorism enters in our public discourse. After that, you look at, I will go one by one. First, I'll talk about P. Chidambaram, who was the Home Minister. And P. Chidambaram in 2010, officially on August 25, 2010, P. Chidambaram the then Home Minister, publicly used the term saffron terror, and were at a national conference of the DGPs of the police, the Director Generals of the police. And he cited Malegaon 2008, Samjhauta, Ajmer, and Mecca Masjid blast as example of this new phenomena. In 2000, from 2008 to 2000, and then he later on defended it also. You know, he later on said, that a few days after that, Chidambaram held a press conference and he defended the phrase, saying that saffron terror, I'm quoting him, saffron terror served its purpose. Saffron terror, the use of the term saffron terror served its purpose. So, if you look at then, he's followed by Sushil Kumar Shinde. Sushil Kumar Shinde also does the same thing. Then Digvijay Singh also does the same thing. So, is it just a coincidence that all these people were
So,
doing, exactly?
Arunji, I want to ask you this question: how much was bringing this term up? Because this is also the period in which Islamic terror post to 9/11 world, where Islamic terror was gaining currency, and people were using that term very often, and it was of course being used in India as well because of the incidents we'd had, and. How much of it was to balance the narrative as well? The usual kind of vote bank politics, saying that okay, you have these bad elements in your community, but the Hindus also have these bad elements, so you're both the same. That kind of twisted logic and equivalence.
See, Congress has always been, since independence, I would say Congress has largely been anti-Hindu. If you look at the policies of, what happened on the streets of Delhi in 1960s when hundreds of sadhus were killed when they were holding a demonstration just for the cow protection.
Cow protection, yes.
Right?
Hmm.
So you have seen basically what happened when Ramlala's idol had come up after independence in Ayodhya, and Pandit Nehru had ordered the district magistrate at that time that you should seal the place, and the district magistrate basically refused about that. So you have seen it was a Congress government which has brought the Places of Worship Act, and
So
which says that.
this is Arunji. I just want to ask you this because this I can even
I
understand.
just want to, Advira, I just want to now give you a specific example for your viewers, and they can draw their conclusions. You rightly pointed out that why Congress was doing this. So 26/11. So after that, there was this journalist Aziz Barni. So he released a book, and the title of the book was 26/11 RSS ki Sajish. And who released the book? Digvijay Singh in December 2010. And this book falsely suggested that there was an RSS role in 26/11, and he fueled this conspiracy theory that it was basically the CIA, Mossad, and the RSS which had actually perpetrated these attacks. And Digvijay Singh was there, and Digvijay Singh is on record saying that the role of non-Muslims cannot be ruled out in this attack. So just imagine, and ironically, Barney wrote another book in 2013, and in which he apologized, and he published another book which called 26/11 RSS Nahi,
Did
admitting
he? Is
that
this the same guy? Is this the same guy who joined the BJP also?
no, I don't think
No,
so.
it's not him. Okay, okay,
I don't
okay.
think so. I'm not aware about it. I'm frankly not aware
Huh.
about it. Whether
But
this thing.
Arunji, I want to understand this. I'm glad you brought up the RSS angle because that's really or the main part of this discussion. After this introduction to what happened is, very clearly a former ATS officer, and I think it's a Muslim gentleman. So you can't even say that he's ideologically saffron or trying to do play sides here. He said that there was ideological pressure to implicate Sarsanchalak Mohan Bhagwat. How? I mean, it's astounding that this actually happened. I'm speechless.
See, I I was a I was an active, on-field journalist as a
Yes,
I say
and
at
in
that
that
time.
time.
at that time. So I have covered these events. So there was a strong buzz. Basically, there was a strong buzz that all this is being done, and ultimately the target is to basically put the RSS Sar Sanchalak, or to arrest the RSS Sar Sanchalak, and to have a crackdown on the RSS. Of course, if they'll arrest the RSS Sar Sanchalak, then of course they will ban RSS also. They will have a crackdown on the RSS also. As I told you, they knew that this undercurrent of Hindutva is. See, I don't have any evidence to do this, but I would not rule out the possibility. And
So I
especially
want
when
to I want
you.
I want to ask you this. This is interesting. So you were a journalist at the time, and journalists get their cover from everywhere, and especially in Delhi, there's always this buzz, that this is imminent, this is imminent. So are you saying that there was buzz that an arrest was imminent of the RSS chief at that time?
The government wanted to do this. This was the buzz, and that is the ultimate plan of the government. Otherwise, no, everybody actually, most of the journalists who were covering it that time, so they knew that this they could not believe that there can be Hindu terrorism or there can be Saffron terrorism, and especially when you have a military intelligence officer who is involved. But
Wasn't he also questioned? Wasn't the RSS chief also questioned for many hours?
no, 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 the RSS chief
Not
wasn't
for this.
questioned.
He
No,
was
not
not questioned.
question, because there was no. See, they had framed the organization called Abhinav Bharat. So Abhinav Bharat has got no links, direct or indirect, with RSS. Sadhvi Pragya also didn't had any direct or indirect links with the RSS. So there was no questioning of but there were, if I remember correctly, there were certain functionaries of the RSS at the local level who were being chased and who were being targeted, and they were they were shown as absconding, and police was conducting raids to the ITS was conducting raids. So the way it happens is you build up a case. Like, so they wanted to build up a case that okay, the local level RSS functionaries were also involved, and then they would have created another hypothesis or another theory that actually they had got the direction from the top, and under UAPA and Makoka, which they had imposed. So when we have seen the statement of Sadhvi Pragya that how she was tortured, so the statement which you give, so generally it is admissible in the courts as evidence. So
Yeah.
that's the key thing. So had they, so there was this plan to kind of do this, and then create a basically a bogey of that. Okay, it is the RSS top brass basically which is involved in this thing, and then
Right.
they.
So what you're saying is that even without questioning him, they were already floating through the media that an arrest is imminent, because there's no reason to to not doubt the fact that they may have said that to their chosen media, which was the entire media at that time, that this was going to happen.
See, I won't say, that arrest is that the buzz was not that arrest is imminent, but the
Huh.
buzz was very strong that if that the government is in a mood to do such an audacious, move to because it's too desperate in terms of its popularity going down the hill, and also they see a long term threat, political threat, with the existence of the RSS, because RSS is an ideological mentor of BJP, and BJP does get benefit from the RSS cadres and foot soldiers on the ground. So they knew that these are politicians. They look at Congress still had. No, unlike Rahul Gandhi, Congress still had some old school politicians at that time who could see the future, and that future we have seen unfolding after 2014. So they knew that this is the kind of
This
future which is
reminds
going.
me of that. It reminds me of that story, is it Panchatantra, where there is that parrot over parrot ke dil mein, you know what I mean, and the Raja? It's sort of like the similar dynamic, na? That the Congress has identified the RSS as this factor, which if they have to defeat the BJP, then they have to ensure that the RSS is, doesn't exist according to their fantasy. Uh, so this is something, of course, but the organization in itself has gone through so much of this turmoil through its history, being, like you've very correctly recounted earlier, being arrested. Guruji Golwalkar was actually incarcerated also, and the organization being banned, etc. They've actually gone through all of it. So whatever interactions I've had with them, I don't see them as a bunch that would be very nervous about this prospect. It's more us who are discussing it. But Arunji, they're not quite worried about these things, no?
No, they are not basically. They are not basically worried about this thing because they know that they are on the side of Dharma, and ultimately they have a faith that it is, in our ancient Indian traditions, is that it's going to be the victory of the good over the evil. So whether it was a 21-month emergency or whether it was ban on RSS in 1948 or in 1992. So every time, and I'll tell you an interesting fact that every time they have tried to chorus RSS or ban RSS, or have come, have cracked down on RSS. The RSS has grown at a much faster and a more rapid pace
Yes.
than ever.
Yes. Yes, and that's what's really amusing is because, I mean, I take the example of Kerala, where there's so much oppression of the RSS, and yet it is the one state in India. I don't know if people know this, but it has the largest number of shakas. So, it's just this. I think Hindus are like sleeping giants, right? You poke them too much, and if they awaken, then you've had it. And that's basically what the Congress doesn't get, is that, and it keeps poking a sleeping giant. Like, don't poke it. Like, do your
Adwaita,
thing, do your politics.
I also wanted to bring this point here. See, one thing is very clear that especially now Congress has gone radical left. See, the Congress vote bank, loyal vote bank, is largely basically coming from Muslims. So its basic, let's be very clear about it. Its basic constituency is Muslims, and from Hindus, it could garner votes earlier because it had created a caste divide. We have seen, the politics of the Dalit politics. But now, especially having a prime minister basically who is an OBC, if you look at it from the caste perspective, and the kind of expansion and all-inclusive approach which BJP has, and then backed by an ideological mentor, which runs more than 122,000 welfare projects across the country, and especially for the marginalized sections of the society. So Hindus have shifted largely towards BJP. So it's a fight of, and Congress had realized at that time also because it had a ramshackle government. The left was part of they didn't had a majority on their own. They were much shorter of majority. So Muslims are their key vote bank. They will do anything to protect that. That is why you have seen they have been condemning Israel, but they haven't condemned Hamas.
No, and
So
also I found it interesting. It seems Priyanka Gandhi Vadra was tweeting about some Christian nuns who were trying to kidnap some girls in Chhattisgarh. And then the next day she spoke about Pahalgam and she refused to say Hindu. She kept saying Indian. So I'm like, what is with this posturing? Just a day ago, you're tweeting about Christians and nuns being persecuted and this and that, and the next day you can't say Hindu when people were clearly identified by their religion. So it's this kind of discomfort or hypocrisy that they have with being Hindu, which creates actually more issues for them.
I agree with you, and I also want to bring in, another point that the point is those who conspired against, the Hindus and put these people like Sadhvi Pragya, Lieutenant Colonel Purohit, and others they compelled them to go through a turmoil of 17 years. It was a hell of 17 years. Will they be held responsible? Who will be held responsible? And of course, if they have been acquitted, it means that if it was a terror incident, then some other terrorists might, of course, would have committed that act. And that terrorist got basically scot free because you were in a hurry to coin this term saffron terror and create a false boogie out of it. Now, point which I
And the
want to raise is that every time people do this, as no, you said that it's a scary situation that this thing can happen to anyone. This situation can be turned. This situation will not be scary if people who do this are brought to the book and we make an example out of them. So next time, if somebody is planning to conspire against, somebody and
Hmm.
settle scores for whatever reasons, so that person will think twice or thrice, before doing that thing. There is no fear of, reprisal, or there is no fear of that of accountability in the system, and especially at the level of the political executive.
And
And
the thing is, there is the accountability, and then there's also just the harassment. Because I remember when Sadhvi Pragya was won an election legitimately, came into as member of parliament, then her political opponents and sections of the media were calling her a terrorist even then. So,
yes.
I mean, imagine how traumatic it is. I mean, on social media, someone says something nasty or abusive to you. I mean, generally to people, and they get so upset and hyper about it. And here, somebody who's on a public national level being referred to as a terrorist over and over again, while the case is still ongoing in court. And you're right.
No.
There's no reprisal for that. Nothing.
See, there is no accountability. I've been part of media. People basically who wrote, long pieces supporting the ATS theory, and supporting this false bogey, and as you rightly mentioned, calling patriots like Sadhvi Pragya and Lieutenant Colonel Purohit names. So there should be some action against them. That the media should also look a little bit inwards. That let's look at all those reporters who were biting the bait given by the state. And nowadays, there are a lot of accusations about Godi media and all that. You look at basically how that media was reporting. And today you have portals like Wire, you have portals like Karma, who are going hammer and tongs, and who are even spreading wrong information, and no action is basically taken. They are free to report. So I think the key is basically to bring in accountability. And Digvijay Singh, he can just easily say, "No, I did not say this." It's a blatant lie. How can he get away with it? And how many times he will lie? No, but
No,
he
no, but Arunji, I think in politics, you are more successful as a politician when you can do bald faced lies,
no,
or
but
at
it
least
is.
the old era of politics. The more bald
But,
faced liar you are, the more successful you'll be. I hate
but
to sound
people,
cynical, but it's
yeah.
true.
But
You
people
know,
who are
it's
participating in, you see, people like you, people like me, other people, we might agree. There are a lot of people with whom we might agree or disagree ideologically, or in terms of our thought process. But there are certain basic norms of a civil society that if you are in a if you are in a public life, okay, he will lie, or any politician will lie, but this is the job of the media, this is the job of public intellectuals, and to expose such people and to hold them accountable. And I think no, we should not let these incidents go, because these are not good for Indian democracy. If we are going to have these kind of politicians, that you can coin, you can there's a millenniums of history which Hindus have. And I always say, the saffron terror is, in fact, an oxymoron, because saffron is a symbol of renunciation and peace and sacrifice, and you are saying saffron terror. It's an oxymoron, and nobody
I mean
basically
that we don't even have to get into that debate because you know exactly why it's was coined. You know, I was watching this old movie on YouTube called New Delhi Times, and it's supposedly like a political thriller from the 80s, and I was very intrigued by it because. The senior generation, like the parents' generation in that film of these main characters who are in their 40s, were all people who had been in the freedom struggle, and the way that they were talking, like one former freedom struggle freedom fighter, his the neta character says that we'd like to honor you, and it is AK Hangal. I've never seen AK Hangal actually talking and not crying, and AK Hangal says कि इसकी औकात क्या है कि मुझे honor करेगा ये नेता, and I was like, the anti politician sentiment had also already crept in. If you look at films from the lens of the culture, Like so soon after independence and such an idealistic movement, 30, 35 years down the line, people were thinking of politicians as chore. There were communal riots, and people were saying ki now, it's not like we don't care about these riots. It's just that we've become so habituated to it that for us as news people, it's just news. It's just photographs. It's not like any issue. So I was like, this whole narrative that communal issue started in 2014 and all, and you just look at this, watch this film, and you're like, my God, the world was already what it was. In fact, I think it's better now. We haven't had any major riots now.
Yeah, and Aditya, I want to just leave kind of what we call a food for thought for your viewers. We might be very, happy about the acquittal of the people who were wrongly framed, and especially this theory about Hindu terror or Saffron terror being quashed. But what is happening today? You see, there are so many cases in which this battle has not ended. You see, in what the opposition ruled states are doing. Anybody who is making you saw what happened in the case of Nupur Sharma, how the courts reacted. You then see basically, that young girl, I think her name is Sharmishta, how she was harassed for putting
Hmm.
something out and after
Interesting.
apologizing that also. You have seen, tell me what happened in Udaipur, that beheading which happened, and how we have very conveniently forgotten that beheading. Anybody who talks about Hindus in a very strong voice or who tries to counter Islamization, so that person is being getting these people are getting targeted in opposition ruled states. Cases are being filed, they are being harassed, they are being chased, they are being kind of hounded. So I think the situation overall, because there are still many states which are ruled by the opposition, especially the Congress ruled states which we have seen. So I think it's a cause of concern for Indian democracy also, because I don't believe that all the states should be ruled by one party, even if it is BJP. There should be opposition, but where if the opposition is like this, so what
Hmm.
is the choice basically, which Hindus have got? So I think it's a larger question of, and we should not stop at just rejoicing or being,
Hmm.
relieved about the acquittal of these people,
Hmm.
but this battle is on, and this
It's
battle will
on, and
continue from that.
it's not over as yet. And just on another news item, Shah Rukh Khan has won a national award for best actor for the first time since he's been in films in 33 years. So there you have it, all those people saying Muslim star and this and that and all of that. I mean, this government really doesn't kind of play by their book. It's as simple as that. And for how long will this propaganda carry on? And I think we have to really sort of address it in whatever way we can, so that just peace is maintained in our country and we can head towards development and not get caught up with this nonsense, and stand up for people who are being victimized like this. So, scary, scary, scary. But thank you so much, Arunji, for taking the time out. I promised you half an hour. We've gone 8 minutes over. But with you, it's always a history lesson.
Pleasure always. It's
So
always a
it's
pleasure.
always nice to talk to you. It's always informative. Thank you, everybody, for watching us. Please do like, share, subscribe. If you enjoy these shorter shows, then I'll bring them to you more often on the weekdays. And of course, we'll go back to regular programming on Sunday. So thank you, everyone, for watching. And bye for now. See you soon.